Hello, I'm Julie from Spellbound, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this fun little fringed necklace. Now this is a beginner's technique. We'll be using culotte crimps at the end to conceal the knots and adding a clasp, and we'll be building the design up from a single strand of seed beads. We'll make this strand first, and then we'll come back and add the tassel strands. We'll then finish off in the other culotte. It's really fun and it's quite quick to do, but it is addictive. You will be adding fringe strands to every single design that you do. To make a fringe necklace using this technique, you'll need a selection of seed beads, and I've also added in some bugle beads. So I've got two sizes of seed beads. I've got some size 8s, which are the gold ones. I've got some teal and blue seed beads in a size 10, which is a little bit smaller. And these are the bugle beads. Now, bugle beads are approximately the same diameter as a size 10 seed bead, and they add a little bit of design to your strands. I always think they help to define the strands as separate from its neighbours. I'm using a frosted gold today, but silver lined glass bugles are freely available and they're really glittery. They'll really make your design zing. Now, as you can see, I've also got some larger beads in the design. We've got them here. These are 6mm glass beads, and I need something a little bit bigger, partly for the design and partly because the weight of the larger beads helps to pull the fringe strands nice and straight when you're wearing it, and also it will encourage them to move when you move, so you get the full fringe effect. Glass beads are ideal for this because they've got that little bit of extra weight. The findings are here. We've got our bolt ring clasp with a little tag attached, so that's the clasp all in one. Our culotte crimps that we've used in the previous videos in this series, and of course needle and thread. Got a size 10 beading needle, and I've got some gold coloured Nymo D thread, mainly because the main colour I'm using is gold. You normally match your thread colour to the main theme of your design. I'm using a gold coloured Nymo thread. It's actually more of a sort of topazy ochre colour, and I'm using that because it goes with all the beads I'm using, and I'm going to be using more gold than anything else, so that seems to be the best choice. Now, I've prepared my needle with about 2 meters of thread, and when we've done working with culottes before, we've used a double thread. In this case, I'm only going to use the thread single because eventually the needle will come back all the way along the top line to make it stronger. I'm going to find the far end of the thread. There we are. And as before, I need to make a stopper to go inside the two culotte cups, so when they close down the thread can't pull through the little hole. And to make the stopper, I'm going to use one of my size 10 seed beads. So I'm going to pop that on. So I'm a short distance from the end, about 10 to 15 centimetres, and I'm going to make a little knot around the bead. Now that will slip off unless I reinforce it with another knot. So that's now going to be really firm. I'm going to pass from the inside of the cups to the outside of the cups, and I can start to thread my design. Now the top row of my design is going to be a simple repeat. And my simple repeat is going to be teal, turquoise, teal, gold, and then it will be turquoise, teal, turquoise, gold. So you can see the size 8 seed beads are spaced out by 3 size 10 seed beads. I'm going to repeat and repeat. I'm going to bring those down to the culotte crimp, and that's the start of my sequence. And you can see why I'm going for an Egyptian theme, because as the colours come together it really reminds you of all those wonderful treasures that have come out of Egypt. Now I'm going to go away for a moment and finish threading this. I'm going to put on enough repeats so this is the right length for the top row of my design. So now I've done enough repeats to make the necklace long enough to fit the neck. Now I've counted up how many repeats I've got, and I've made sure I've got an odd number of the gold beads. So I've actually got 45 of those gold beads all the way around, and that means I can have one gold bead in the middle of my design, because the gold beads are where I'm going to suspend the tassel strands. Now to make it even at the end where we're going to have the clasp, I started with a repeat of 3 small seed beads, so I'm going to finish with a repeat of 3 small seed beads. So when the culotte goes on, those two ends will match. So there's actually 45 repeats in total, plus 3 extra seed beads at the end. Now we're going to put on the culotte for the other end. So we pass from the outside of the cups to the inside, and then I need to make a stopper inside the 2 cups here so that I can then come back along and make my tassel strands. And to make the stopper I'm just going to use a size 10 seed bead. I'm going to bring that all the way down so it sits inside the 2 cups, and then I'm going to carefully pass out through the hole in the culotte. So I'm going through the hole in the culotte, not through the hole in the new seed bead. And to pull that through, you need to be careful because you've got quite a long thread at the moment, so don't get it caught up on the hooks of the culotte. And then when I pull it up tight, you can see that the seed beads are fitting tight to the outside of the culotte here. They're close together all the way around, and they're fitting tight to the outside of this culotte at the beginning as well. So I've got the right amount of tension in my thread. Right, now I need to do a little bit of planning. I said I've got 45 gold beads all the way around. So if I've got 45 gold beads all the way around, I want the middle of my necklace to be hanging from this middle gold bead here, which is the 23rd bead along. Now I'm not going to do that strand first. I'm going to start a little bit further up and do a graduated fringe, and I've actually got 9 weight beads, so I'd like to make 9 tassel strands. So if I lay them out in a line like that, if I'm going to make 9 tassel strands, the middle one will be that one there, the 5th one, which means I'm going to do 4 strands to one side and 4 strands to the other side of the middle. So if I bring my necklace together like this so I can see which is the middle gold bead, it's that one there. So that will be my middle strand, and then I want 1, 2, 3, 4 gold beads to support the other 4 strands to that side. 1, 2, 3, 4 gold beads to match up with those. So that will give me a centered fringe on my necklace. So if that's the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, That means I've got to get my needle all the way down through these beads here to emerge at that gold bead there. Now that one is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 gold beads along. I'm going to very carefully pass my needle back through the seed beads of the strand. So I'm working from the second end where the needle is, and I'm going to pass my needle back through. Now that's the thread got caught up on the hook of the culotte, so you just need to work carefully, make sure the thread doesn't catch inside the culotte. It'll be easier now we're away from the hook. And we keep on going. Make sure you don't miss any beads. If you miss any beads, you'll end up with a little elbow where the bead you've missed sticks out. Let's just gently pulling it through. It might look like we've got a lot of thread here, but every time you make a tassel strand, that uses quite a lot of thread, and ideally we'd like to do this all with one length of thread. We can join new threads in, but it's so much easier if you don't have to. I'm going to have to do a little check on the count because I think I'm getting close to where I need to be. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, that's 17. 18, 19. So that's the 19th gold bead back along my design. Right, now I can start thinking about my tassel design. I'd like it to make a V shape when I finish, so shorter at the edges, longer in the middle. And I've got quite a few beads here to give me some variety. Now when you're making a tassel strand, the most important thing is to control the tension at the top where it joins this thread, this main thread, because if you pull too tight it will stick out at an angle. If you're too loose, the thread will show and it'll be vulnerable to break. So we're going to use a little trick by suspending the tassel strand underneath this larger size 8 seed bead. I'll show you what I mean. My tassel sequence is going to be 2 green and a blue one. Then I'm going to have another green and a bugle bead, and then we'll go blue, green, gold, green. There's our feature bead, our weight bead that goes on quite near the end of the tassel strand, and I'm going to finish with a green and a gold. Now I need something to anchor the strand so the beads don't fall off when I take the needle all the way back up. And I'm going to put on 3 little blue beads. I'm going to use the 3 together to make the anchor, because that gives us a pleasing little triangular cluster that we call a picot. So I've made sure that my beads are pushed up to that larger seed bead on the strand. I'm now going to leave out these bottom 3 and pass back up most of the other beads I've put on. I'm going to emerge 1 seed bead from the top. You can see there's a green seed bead there, I haven't come back through. Pull that through. The easiest way to bring up a tassel strand is to hold on to your anchor, in this case it's 3 seed beads, and let the thread run through as you pull. There we go. That's brought it up to close to the main strand. Now as you can see, I'm 1 bead short of the main strand. I'm going to pair that 1 bead up with another one to match. It's another green bead, and then I'm going to pass through that gold bead on the main strand again, pointing towards the middle of the necklace. So this is the end I've come from. I've come all the way down. I passed through that gold bead, made my tassel strand, came all the way back up. I'm going to pass through that particular gold bead again. And when I lay it down, you can see now there's a little seed bead to either side of that gold bead that's supporting the tassel strand, and the tassel strand hangs nicely from those 2 seed beads. So it's a bit like a little bit of a reinforcement, but it helps that strand to hang straight. We're now going to move on to the next tassel strand, which will hang from the next gold bead. Right. Now this one I want to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to use a few more seed beads at the top. I'm going to keep this combination here the same, but I'm going to increase the number of green beads at the top. So this time I think we'll go for 5, and then it's blue bead, green bead, bugle bead, blue, green, small gold, green. This is where beading becomes quite hypnotic, because you start talking to yourself. Let's have a little look at how that looks against that. Yep, that's a little bit longer, but not too long yet. That's our 3 blue anchor beads. And we're going to do the same again. I'm going to leave out those anchor beads, back up through the seed beads. Now you don't have to do them all at once. Take your time. You're less likely to get into a tangle if you take your time. I'm just going to pull up those 3 little anchor beads, our picot, back up to nearly at the top. So I'm going to emerge 1 seed bead before the top again. Okay, now I'm ready for 1 extra seed bead. There it is, and I'm going to pass through the gold bead on the main strand that's supporting this new tassel bit, and then on to emerge from the next gold bead along. When I pull through, so I'm actually at the tail. That's better. There we go. So we've got 2 tassel strands. Now I'm going to do the next few tassel strands, and each time I'm going to increase. Here I started with 2 green beads, then I went to 5. I think the next one will probably be 7 and then 9, and then for the middle one probably 11 green beads before that bottom sequence. But I'll do a few more strands and I'll be back to show you how it's developing. I've got my first 4 strands now of my design. As you can see, each one has that extra seed bead at the top, so it dangles nicely. We started with 2 above the sequence, then it went to 5, then 7, then 9. So this is going to be my middle sequence, and naturally I would put 11 beads on before the sequence, because that would increase the length by another 2 beads. But because it's the centre, I'm going to go for 4 seed beads and then a gold bugle, I think. A gold bugle is equivalent to about 4 seed beads, so in effect I've got 9 on there. So I'll go 10, 11. Let's put that against the design and see what the length looks like. So I'm going to be putting on the sequence from that blue seed bead down. I think I might need one more green one before I start the sequence, and we'll see what that looks like. And this is the way you can adapt your design. You can perhaps make the fringe strands all the same length, or you can make a zigzag effect at the bottom, or you can have different combinations on each strand. Let's have a look at that. Yes, that gives me that stepped edge I wanted. So let's pass back up through all of these beads, leaving out the 3 beads of the picot at the bottom. Remember, we need to add that seed bead at the top, so it's up through all of them apart from the very last green bead. Pop on a new green bead through the gold bead on the main string and along until we pop out of the next gold bead along. Let's have a little look. There we go. So there's our first 5 strands of the fringe design. Now I'm going to complete it with 4 more strands and then I'll show you how to finish off your work. So now I've completed my tassel strands, and I've just copied that one from that strand, that one from that one, etc. So it's nice and symmetrical, and I've got that chevron pattern that I wanted. Now looking at it, I think a nicer design still would be to take that all the way up to there, so perhaps another 3 or 4 strands, but I'm very happy with how it looks, and I like this extra bugle in here because that makes that centre strand really stand out. Now when I finished the very last tassel strand, which is this one here, I work the needle through all of these seed beads. I kept on going until I emerged just outside the calotte crimp. So you can see I'm just outside the calotte crimp there, and now I'm going to pass through the hole in the calotte crimp. Now I'm alongside the first end of the thread, and I can just tie them together with a reef knot. So it's left over right, oops, right over left, and do the same again. So it's that way, and then the second half of the reef knot is always more difficult because it's not the natural way for your hands to work. There we go, that's 2 nice solid reef knots, one on top of the other. Now if I'd made a very heavy set of tassel strands, I'd be a little bit worried that I've only got 2 strands of thread in total running all the way through this top line. If I was a bit worried about that, what I could do, if I've got enough thread left, I can pass the needle through all of these beads again, all the way along the top line. I can pass through the anchor bead in the other calotte, and then come all the way back again to finish off the thread. Now if I haven't got enough thread, which I wouldn't have with this length, I could join a new thread on by tying onto this thread, this anchor bead here inside the first calotte, and I could use the new thread to do the same thing. However, my tassel strand beads aren't particularly heavy, so I'm happy that's going to be plenty strong enough. Now we need to finish off, as we did before, with the jeweller's best friend, which is a little bit of clear nail polish or nail polish of any colour. And we're going to paint that knot. I'm going to paint the knot and the bead inside, and then use the two thread ends to help me to position the bead so that I can close it down, close the two cups together over the bead so you can't see it. And let's do the same on the other end. Even though there aren't any knots here, the nail polish or nail varnish actually helps to protect the thread from wear. So there we go, close that down, and I can come back to this end, and with some nice sharp scissors I can trim off the thread ends. And now we're ready to add our clasp. I've got my little clasp to go in the middle, so it's just like we did before. Close the hook and just give it a little squeeze just to elongate it, and that makes it a little bit stronger. Do the same at that side. And there's your necklace complete. One little fringe necklace, really easy to do and immense fun, because once you get into tassels and fringe strands, there's no limit to the designs you can make. Thank you for watching, and happy beading.